Singapore is becoming a MedTech hub, and today we are with Eugene Yoo. He is representing Johnson&Johnson, and he's also the chairperson of the MedTech industry in Singapore. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
One of the conversations of today is how Singapore is very special due to the partnership between public and private sector. So I want to hear your intake on this. How is Singapore playing this role?
Yep. I mean, Singapore is one place where there is now a lot of support for medtech startups, and we can see it come in funding and resources from various areas. Maybe I'll start off with regulation. The Health Sciences Authority is the first gateway getting our regulations, and this is one where they have started to streamline some of their processes. They have worked with various countries in terms of recognizing each other's regulatory submissions. Very recently, they signed a MOU with Malaysia for a 6 months pilot period. So companies who are submitting to Singapore will get the same regulatory documents being acknowledged in Malaysia. So that really just speeds through the kind of registration you're going to get in another market. Aside from it, they also have similar arrangements with TGA in Australia as well as in Thailand, and they're looking at expanding it. So I think from a standpoint of regulation, starting from Singapore will allow you to branch out to a lot of various markets. I think that's one. Beyond regulation, there are other parts of the ecosystem that supports. You have the National Health Innovation Centers that try and reach companies into the hospital space where you can get support, funding, and being a test bed and pilot in the ecosystem in Singapore. You get the industry funding support from ESG, which is our Enterprise SG, that will become fundings in other areas. But more importantly, like you said, I now currently sit as a chairman of the MedTech Industry Group. It's part of a broader umbrella under Singapore Manufacturing Federation. In this federation, we have support for startups as well. We range from having business advisories for them in terms of regulations, in terms of how they're going to bring market to international markets. We have the certificate of origin, which sits in our services, so you can certify your products. We also have GS1 in terms of that barcoding support as well. And lastly, we do have a sustainability office. So all in all, I feel Singapore is a great place to start because you start off with regulations, but across the whole ecosystem, I think there are a lot of various support. Just to end off, I think startup is like a baby and you need to incubate it. And I think you need a village to raise a kid. And so in that aspects, I do think that Singapore has built a very nice environment for this little child to thrive.
Indeed. Singapore has become also a connector between East and West. One of the reasons is actually the manufacturing part, right? Why do you think Singapore has been playing this role?
And I think that if you start looking at Singapore, I think it's one country that works very well with not with every country around the world. More importantly, I think it's at the center of Asia. And a lot of times you'll hear people say, if you want to go into Asia, start with Singapore, right? Because it's a very close environment where you can bring in a product, where you can test it, and it has very good regulations and policies. It also have very good professionals and clinicians. So in a way, you are able to test it. And if you succeed, you get the trust brand of being made in Singapore, being tested in Singapore, being used in Singapore. So I think that's a strong trust brand in Singapore. And so in that aspect, you could then leverage that to kind of build your expansion plans into the rest of Asia. But beyond that, like you said, I think how do you then build to the West? And that trust mark is so critical. And once you get that regulation approval and that test market here, it's so much easier for you to then say, maybe I'll go into CE mark, I'll go into FDA, I'll get that. And use this as a test market. And I've seen many companies do it and with great success. And lastly, what I'll say is, Singapore is also a center where a lot of big MNCs are putting their Asia Pacific office right here and their international markets here. So you get the best brains, the capabilities, the talents in this small little country that will allow you to go further, go faster.
Yeah. Earlier today, you were talking about innovation and success, right? And one of the statements on the panel was success doesn't come only with innovation.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
what makes a startup be success beyond innovation?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And one of the things I shared earlier was that innovation doesn't guarantee success because a lot of times a startup company may start with a new innovative product. But what I think is more important is you need to understand the standard of care right now in the medtech space or in the hospitals. You need to understand what is the unmet need. So start with an unmet need before you put forth innovation. Because what we're seeing in times is that you have a very innovative product, right? But once you put it to the market, are you able to replace the standard of care, right? The next consideration you need to think about is, are you moving into a self-pay market? Are you going into a reimbursed market? And these are the things that a startup really needs to think about end to end. So to be really successful, I would say you need to have that clarity of thought of that whole end-to-end process from unmet needs, standard of care, what's the reimbursement or payment pathway to commercialization and go-to-market model. First, have that clarity. Number two, I think you need to have the focus. Which are the markets you're going to play in, which segment of the healthcare you're going to play in. And more importantly, I think is choosing what not to play in.
Yeah.
I think sometimes startup gets too ambitious in trying to boil the whole ocean. So I think it's selecting which is the areas you're going to play in and be very clear how you're going to win in that space.
Indeed. And to finish this interview, what is that piece of advice that you would give to a company who wants to explore this market?
So I would say be very clear where you're going to play. I'll go back to where it is. I think it's that focus and clarity. Be very clear where you're going to play. Find the right environment for you to be incubated. And I will encourage, consider Singapore as one. I've seen successful cases. I feel the environment is right. And for anybody reaching that aspiration, I hope you'll be very, very successful.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us, and we hope to host you in any of our MedTech World events.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.